This game caught my eye when it first was announced. The Banishers Ghost of New Eden. Not entirely sure what's about it. I think it's supposed to be I think either action adventure or action RPG. But we didn't see gameplay of it until now, like full on, like a good presentation of gameplay. So this is a first preview video. We're gonna be checking out, getting a better look at it, getting some better details of what this game's gonna be playing, what it's gonna be about. And yeah, I think it's from Dotenot, because the same people who did Vampire, how you want to pronounce it. And I'm interested because they usually have good storytelling. Let's see.
It's behind me, isn't it? Yes.
I do know.
Banishers Ghosts of New Eden owes a lot to Sony's recent God of War outings. Its close third-person camera perspective, linear but open level design, a mix of environmental puzzles, and hard-hitting melee combat are all present.
This is God of War! This is freaking God of War in a different setting!
But there's more than meets the eye here. After playing a whole quest,
and I just mean that from like a camera and gameplay standpoint.
Lies a soul just as connected to the Life is Strange series developer Dontnod is famed for as it is to Sony's godly behemoth.
Let's see.
You play as Red, a Scotsman in 1695 North America, who's taken up the profession of Banisher, a sort of exorcist witcher who hunts ghosts rather than monsters. But he also has a greater, more personal purpose. Red's romantic partner, Antia, recently met a tragic fate, and so his primary objective is now to find a way to bring her back to life. That's one option.
Makes sense.
Anyway, but we'll get to that. Beyond its third-person action flourishes, Banishers...
Alright. God damn, this is so God of War, it hurts. Okay, so it's God of War, and I mean like God of War 2018 and Ragnarok in the sense of the camera, the third person combat, it's like that, right? Not only that, but the fact that the main character has a dead wife who he's trying to bring back. Now, difference is Kratos wasn't trying to bring his dead wife back to life. He was just trying to spread her ashes in a particular spot because that was her last dying wish or whatever. So, but it's crazy the parallels here. Sorry, let's go back.
Back to life. That's one option anyway, but we'll get to that. Beyond its third-person action flourishes, Banishers is hiding a choice-based adventure firmly rooted in developer Dontnod's DNA. It provides a mix of violence and delicacy that could be felt clearly as I played through an hour-long mission from one of its earliest chapters. Arriving in a small 17th century East Coast settlement made up of ramshackle log cabins and huts that had seen better days, I was quickly introduced to the town's matriarch, an imposing woman by the apt name of Thickskin. She had little time for small talk, but all the time in the world for big beasts. After tasking me with a mission to rid the town of a mysterious ghostly monster that's been terrorizing its inhabitants for quite some time, I set off into the wilderness in search for clues. First though, I'd need a gun, and in order to get it, I had to navigate a conversation with...
What the hell?
with Thickskin's much less evocatively named sister, Kate. While the dialogue... First though, I'd need a gun, and in order to get it, I had to navigate a conversation with Thickskin's much less evocatively named sister, Kate. While the dialogue choices made here had no bearing on the outcome, you'll always get the gun. It did teach me more about the family dynamics at play here, information that would later aid me in making a much bigger decision. With my new gun slung over my shoulder, I headed into the altogether unwelcoming woods in search of my prey. It wasn't long before grunts from beyond the grave looked to stop me at my tracks, however, allowing me to put my musket to good use. Its old school kick delivers a satisfying shot as punchy bullets to good use. Its old school kick delivers a satisfying shot as punchy bullets crash into bone, but a lengthy reload fitting of the error stops you from sending another in quick succession. You'll have
okay, that makes sense if it fits the area.
Time adds a natural risk-reward aspect as it leaves you vulnerable while you prepare another loaded chamber.
What the?
Melee.
Hold on, let me see if it works.
Melee combat, then, is something you'll be utilising with far more regularity. On the surface, it's not dissimilar from the raft of action RPGs you'll have played in recent years.
Okay, so this is an action RPG,
attacks,
got it.
Dodges and blocks are punctuated by some of Banisher's more unique approaches to combat. You see, Antea may be dead, but she's still by your side in spectral form, and she's
That's
just as up
dope.
for the fight as
Your
you
dead
are.
wife
Switching
fights
to
with
her
you in combat.
opens up new possibilities, albeit not drastically different ones. She's still melee focused, preferring bare fists to Red's cutlass, but is in command of a powerful area of effect attack that deals ghostly green damage to any ghoul around. And where
Okay,
Red has a
makes
health bar
sense.
to manage and top up, Antea has no more life to fill a bar with. Instead, magic is her vitality. This is where the music to Banisher's combat dance is written, building up Antea's mana bar by attacking as Red before switching to his dead lover to send a kiss of death to their enemies. You can switch to Antea at any time outside of combat too, as she's the vital key to solving some relatively basic environmental puzzles, but she is also a sort of spirit detective and can inspect spectral dust for clues to what has happened to the people of this place.
Okay, so this is very interesting what to do in here. Like, it has some inspiration from God of War, obviously, but the fact that you can, you know, switch between both characters outside of combat, because, you know, your dead wife in this game is useful outside of combat to help you investigate stuff, inspect things. Like, what this is kind of reminding me of a little bit is an unfortunate, like, sort of failed game, I guess, from Square Enix, Murdered Soul Suspect. Murdered Soul Suspect kind of had a similar thing, where the premise of that game is like you're playing a main character who is trying to solve his own murder, but you're essentially in ghost form the entire game. And through that, though, you're investigating different clues and things like that, and I think you can possess people like that in the game. So, not saying you can possess people in this, but like with using your dead wife to sort of investigate stuff, it kind of reminds me of that game in a way. At least that's what comes to my head. There's probably other games that do the same thing or similar, but yeah, okay, but very cool.
Gaining new information not only fleshes out these ghost stories, but any scrap of intel could also prove crucial when faced with the big decision that will seemingly occur at the end of each mission. More on that in a little bit. Echoes and visions of villagers' grisly demises only add to the creepy, uneasy tone that Banishers perpetuates throughout. Inspired by films like The Revenant and The Village, it's a New England setting haunted by old evils. That tone translates onto the enemies you'll face, who primarily consist of mangled collections of bones suspended by a ghoulish green glow. Waves of foes were made up of relatively basic melee and ranged units during this early section, but every now and then a stronger test would be posed. Enter the fearsomely named Nicholas Doolan, a reanimated corpse of a mini-boss that aims to pick you off at range with a musket of his own, while swamping you with his skeletal friends. It posed a welcome challenge that made me juggle all the tools at my disposal. Of course, because we're in the year 2023, there are multiple ability, upgrade, and crafting menus to sift through in order to tailor your playstyle to your liking. Banisher's developers promise not to overload you with too many types of weapons or armors to collect though, instead letting you choose which of its modest offerings to specialize in and upgrade to their maximum level. I didn't get to experiment too much with these systems during my limited time with the game, but glimpses of powerful arcane abilities can be seen in some of the game's trailers, suggesting an exciting level of skill progression. Combat is not necessarily where I see Banisher's most interesting promises lying though. Instead, I'm drawn towards its story and the impact your aforementioned choices will have on it.
Makes sense. It also depends on how, you know, choice driven it will be.
The mission ends with a ritual that summons a visually impressive boss battle. A huge clawed beast made up of rot, bones and branches scratches and swipes at you as you chip away at its equally large health bar. It was a fun 3-stage fight that married the combat of previous encounters with in-world lore, as each fleshless limb was banished after the next. The encounter itself is not revolutionary when compared to the action RPGs Don't Nod appears to take inspiration from, but what happened next is where Banishers sets itself apart. it. Using all of the knowledge gained from the journey and tales told by memories of the dead, a fuller picture of the curse befouling the town is painted. These facts are crucial when making a critical choice involving the fate of the two sisters met during the mission's opening. I won't reveal the nature of their story, but rest assured it's one filled with horror and tragedy befitting of the setting. It's not told through the most poetic of prose, but one that admirably establishes a bond between its characters in a short amount of time. The decision you have to make is a clear one, with genuine consequences for not just the sisters, but also Red and Antea. Pick the cutthroat option, and the path towards Antea's resurrection will be further walked along. But opt for the more merciful route, and you'll instead push Antea in the direction of ascending to the afterlife. It's this central conflict that will likely propel Banishers through its 20 to 30 hour story, and one I'm sure will be riddled with all sorts of ethical conundrums, as the temptation to return Antea to her corporeal form looms. While it may not have the level of quality in its writing, or ferocity in its combat to match the calibre of games it's evoking, Dontnod's trademark choice-based narrative systems are where Banishers differentiates itself. Despite only playing for an hour, I found myself quickly invested in Red and Antea's story, and intrigued by what the remainder of Banishers' tale, and indeed my own decisions, have in store for them. I look forward to seeing what dark, sad, and likely horrific places it takes me to next. For more previews...
I dig it. So, like, this game, I feel like is going to be really... Like, the shining highlight is what he was talking about. Like, the story narrative and the choices you have to make. You know, like, this is a game from a story standpoint. It's like, how far would you go to bring your dead spouse back? You know, doesn't necessarily have to be, in this case, it's your dead wife, but like you know, you can view it as your dead husband as too. Like, this is, how far would you go to bring back a loved one? You know, and I like that this game is messing with you mentally about that and emotionally about that. Like, in this world and the choices you'll have to make in order to reach that goal. If you decide to go with that goal, and like he was alluding to, I guess that's one thing you can do is bring her back to life. I'm guessing the other option is not bring her back to life, or maybe there's a third option somewhere in there. I don't know. So it looks like this is going to have multiple endings based on that information, which I'm all for. I love games that have multiple endings, especially RPG games. So that is intriguing. I like the dilemma, you know, puts you up against, and it's like that. You know, a game that arguably right now is doing so much of that in terms of player freedom and choice is Baldur's Gate 3, where there's so many dilemmas put in in front of you in that game. But this seems to be a more focused sort of version of that, and maybe not as many, considering, you know, two different games there. Baldur's Gate 3 is turn-based, and there's so many ways to play that game. Don't know for sure there how many exact ways you can play this game yet. So we're only getting a little bit of information here and there. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm definitely intrigued by it. I like the God of War inspirations and other elements it's taken from other games. So yeah, definitely intrigued.